Welcome to another press conference. We're glad to have you this morning. I hope your weekend was a little bit better than mine. It looked like it was a great time here. Unfortunately, I was driving a truck for about 900 miles, picking furniture up, delivering it at 3 different places. Managed to get everything finished up last night about 10:30. I was glad to get to sleep and glad to get here. But it's good to have everybody, kids back home from college and all moved, so it's all good. A lot of things happening last week. There are a couple of them that we'd like to recognize, and we'd like to make a chance to at least create some live news here at the same time. One, we certainly last week had the youth council. They finished up. This was a group of about we had 28 students. 28 students that served in our youth council this past year. They began meeting back in October. They met all the way through until they had their last meeting on Thursday. They did a lot of events back in January. They did some things helping out, opening doors, and some of our other partners that were dealing with homelessness got active in that. They thought that was the right campaign for them to work on this past year. So very impressed with some of the leaders we have coming up. The youth council and what they did. The members certainly wanted to recognize them, wanted to also recognize Kelsey Powell and Lawrence Powell and their department that run that. They do an amazing job. It's one of the things we talked about. Listen, it's one of the ways that we can help children and help our schools. Our goal is not to be the teacher, but our goal is to augment, and it's one of the ways that we augment in teaching leadership skills, and we hope we'll be coming out with a new class again in the fall. We hope that you will sign up if you're an interested high school student, junior and senior. We hope you will sign up if you want to participate and be a part of it. We think it's a great program. We took them to Tallahassee, did a lot of unique things that you don't always get to do, and so there are opportunities there, and I think they did an amazing job. Also, last week, wanted to go ahead and certainly say my appreciation to Holly Benson. I think our sculpture garden, I jokingly call it the Holly Benson Sculpture Garden at Bartram Park, but it is becoming that. I think now when you have 3, you kind of can become a sculpture park now. But the sculpture's overture, it's made, it's got the looping comments and kind of loops. It's supposed to look like a conductor of an orchestra as they're conducting their wand, and the motions that those make. And the overture apparently is the start of the symphony as it starts. So that's what it is, but it really does, it is a beautiful piece, and it does sort of captivate in the place that we placed it, with a hole right in the middle of the whole of it. It kind of looks right into to the bridge, and so I really appreciate Holly donating another piece to us. Like I said before at the event, I'm looking forward to this summer. I'm going to St. Louis. Looking forward to see Holly came. Of course, she's from here, but she went to St. Louis for many years. There's a sculpture garden there in the middle of downtown. Want to go look at it and take a look at it. Granted, at 3, we're not quite there where St. Louis is, but Holly keeps donating to us like this. Who knows where we'll be? But it's amazing to see. I think everybody loved Folding Planes. I think Overture is another great one. So very much appreciate her doing that, and I think it makes a tremendous difference in what our community looks like. And I think public art can do so many things that are great. Oh, okay. So there's some things we won't be able to do today, but we're going to do one. This weekend there's significant comments and discussion. It was great to see an editorial in there about opening getting the Naval Air Station back opened so people can go to the museum and the other things that are there. Certainly the state has been working a number of issues to help with the federal government, and local governments are looking to match that. So I wanted to read a proclamation that we were moving forward to go ahead and get some things going on this. And again, why wait till the 22nd of May when you can do it on the 16th? So we're going to go ahead and start the process of whereas the National Naval Aviation Museum, with its 150 beautiful restored aircraft, dozens of military exhibits, thousands of aircraft, virtual reality flight simulators, interactive 4D rides, and giant screen movie theater, tells the story of how Pensacola became the cradle of naval aviation. And today the museum has grown to become the second largest aviation museum in the country since its inception in 1963. And whereas the Naval Aviation Museum is considered the leading tourist attraction between Orlando and New Orleans, a top 10 attraction in the state of Florida, and its visitors come from every state, with more than 70% visiting from outside of Florida. And whereas the National Naval Aviation Museum inspires our nation's youth to explore science, technology, engineering, and math, and potentially join the armed forces to become the next generation of military aviators. And whereas the National Naval Aviation Museum provides significant economic and educational benefits for the country, state, and nation. And whereas the National Naval Aviation Museum's acute visitorship deficit over the past 2 decades has resulted in the loss of more than $10 million in labor income and nearly 350 jobs due to the enhanced security measures stemming from the 2019 terrorist attack at Naval Air Station Pensacola. And whereas the residents and constituents of the City of Pensacola, Escambia County, and across the state of Florida have launched a campaign to urge the U.S. Navy and Department of Defense to reestablish public access to NAS Pensacola, so all citizens are allowed to visit the National Naval Aviation Museum once again. Now, therefore, I, Grover Robinson, Mayor of the City of Pensacola, do hereby salute the efforts of the community and formally request the U.S. Navy and Department of Defense to reinstall the public access waiver to NAS Pensacola so all citizens can once again have access to the National Naval Aviation Museum. Recognizing National Naval Aviation Museum reopening and witness whereof, I've here to set my hand in the seal of the City of Pensacola to be affixed this 16th day of May 2022. Again, we understand and do not take lightly the events that have happened on the base and the need for security on the base. We think that's paramount. But what we do believe is that the state of Florida has come forward with a great idea to allow open access to those areas that the people can get to, but at the same time continuing the security that we need for our Navy assets and other military assets to do their mission. We think there is a compromised way to do it, and we certainly need the U.S. Navy, the Department of the U.S. Navy and the Department of the Defense to work with the state of Florida. It is incumbent upon all of us. It's certainly a treasure that we have out there that belongs to the people, and the people need to be able to get to it. And again, what we suggest has in no way compromises the safety of what's out there in the missions that are done. There's a way to do it, and we really appreciate the state of Florida stepping up to that opportunity. And the City of Pensacola supports all of those efforts. And with this proclamation, we are moving forward with our support of the state of Florida and what they would like to do. And we hope that the Navy will get on board. As a former commander on the base has told me so many times, I thought Captain Kinsella was so correct in what he says. So goes the base, so goes the town, and so goes the town, so goes the base. We're linked together, and I think we need at this point, as strong as ever, an opportunity to get back to the base and those things that we've enjoyed. And we have a solution, and we certainly support that solution and what the state of Florida wants to do. That's your live portion of the show. We did have another one, but we'll have to wait a little bit later. This week will be Bike to Work Day on Friday. The City of Pensacola and Ciclavia invites you to celebrate National Bike Month during Bike to Work Day on Friday. Unfortunately, the kickoff was scheduled for me to be able to ride from Dunwoody Park to the City Hall, followed by food, fun, and festivities. I think we did this in 2019. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I was ready to do it again this year, and my son is in a wedding on that day, and I will not be able to be here. I'll be out of town. But the group ride will meet 7:45 at Dunwoody Park, and we'll depart for City Hall at 8 o'clock. Anyone unable to join the group ride is welcome to choose their own Bike to Work Day route or simply stop at City Hall to participate in the festivities. Learn more at City Hall at cityofpensacola.com or on Ciclavia Facebook page. Also, we do want to recognize something that we did just receive. The city received a award for $160,000 for resilience through Resilient Florida Grant Program. The $160,000 from the state of Florida's Resiliency Grant Awards, which will help fund the city's sea rise vulnerability assessment to assess community flood risk. We're very proud of the work that Mark and his team are doing to be able to achieve this. The grant funding will help the city evaluate the potential of flood exposure to critical assets, transportation, and evacuation routes, critical infrastructure, critical community and emergency facilities, and natural, cultural, and historic resources. The next mayor's cleanup will be this weekend. Again, we had put this out on the original mailer. It's this weekend because the last weekend when it usually does occur is Memorial Day weekend. We will not be having it. We did have a piece that went out in error, a mailer that had the wrong date. The original date mailer was correct. It's the 21st. It is this Saturday. We certainly could use the press's help to make sure that we get this out there. The mayor's cleanup will be this Saturday, May 21st, for a portion of East Hill neighborhood. Please see the cleanup map for details. This event allows City of Pensacola sanitation customers in the cleanup area to leave eligible items at the curb for pickup free of charge. Note again, a postcard was sent that lists the correct area, but it lists the incorrect date. And again, the correct date is May 21st. So this Saturday, May 21st, we will be having the cleanup. To learn more about the Mayor's Neighborhood Cleanup, visit cityofpensacola.com. And we have a closure of roadways for some work. S Street and P Street to close May 16th for roadway improvements. S Street and P Street will be closed from Jackson to Cervantes Street beginning Monday, May 16th for construction of roadway improvements in the area. The project will include complete removal and reconstruction of the roadway along with installation of new sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. Construction is expected to be completed by August, weather permitting. Traffic will be detoured via Jackson, Gadsden, Q, and R streets. So again, S Street and P Street between Jackson and Cervantes will be closed. We'll be doing some work coming out of that. I think, again, it matches much of the things that we're looking to do and make safer ways for people to walk. We're going to have sidewalks and other things that will be in that stretch. So again, we hope to be done by August. Obviously, weather's going to be a big part of that, but we think that what will happen with the neighborhoods will make it so much better, and we certainly hope you'll be prepared for us to work through that. There were some things that happened last week that somewhat caused me some distress, and I think I at least wanted to at least call attention to it because it was deeply concerning to me. I care less about the politics of what happens. I think if we can remove politics from city government, we typically get better services, better things for all of us. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the beast, we sometimes get these things included. I don't know, Casey had something for all of y'all that went out, and it just highlights some of the frustration. For me, it's a personal matter that really sticks at the beginning of my crawl. Some of the things that are happening, much of what occurred on Carpenter's Creek. We understand with the Waterford and what happened at Davis Highway. We have been working to try to find solutions. The things that happened there didn't happen there because of what happened overnight. It is a long systemic way that has happened to the creek. Our goal is to get wood here in Pensacola. Again, it's the City Hall to explain to council members what the long-term implication and suggestion is to get this solved. The city believes that the best thing that we do is scientific, not political. To that end, we have supported the county in those efforts of restore. They've put forward a good study, and in this very room, we actually had them come forward. We had many stakeholders here. We had many individuals, including we brought in Councilwoman Myers to listen to what has been communicated. In that discussion, it was clearly communicated that much of what's happening to the creek is simply you took what was a tributary draw and you turned it into a significant drainage way. That happens with overdevelopment. It's basically 100 years of development have created the problem we're solving for. In fact, the blowouts that they continue to reference, some of which showed just downstream from this work probably 20, 30 years ago from the city trying to hold back the blowouts. That is coming from the south to the north as you build an ever deeper canyon, essentially, versus a tributary draw. Again, the things that are happening there weren't necessarily happening because of any one thing. They're happening from a number of things that are systematic. What the city has placed in there is a Vortex Vault. Same thing we've placed all around the city, at Bayou Tahar, everywhere else we've gone. These Vortex Vaults do nothing more than take trash out, other solids, and then also take out some of the greases and other things so that they settle, so they don't get into our water. That's no more what the Vortex Vault does. In putting the Vortex Vault that we placed in there, the state had some things they wanted us to do, and again, one of those things in placing where the outfall flows from it, not from the Vortex Vault. The outflow does go there, but allowing also the creek to divert and go through there. DOT really tried to protect their own infrastructure, and we totally understand why they're protecting their own infrastructure. And unless we find a solution that addresses the entire creek, the last thing we want to do is lose the bridge on Davis Highway. That would be devastating to thousands of people in the city of Pensacola and thousands of Escambia County residents who use that area every single day. So again, it's unfortunate what has happened. I credit significantly what went through Wood, but also Commissioner Bender. Over the last 12 months, we've been trying to figure out a solution. The original solution, because much of it was created by DOT, came from DOT. Their answer to creek restoration was not an acceptable one, and we very much appreciate Commissioner Bender and the county pushing back. The city joined in those efforts and again said we need a better solution. The way it was devised was that DOT would stabilize the Carpenter's Creek and would stabilize the Waterford parking lot at Carpenter's Creek, rebuild the parking spaces, and then allow the bottom space to be readdressed for restoration. Despite all of this effort and what was communicating, someone put forward, and again, when it comes forward in a add-on memo, it's not just an issue or a comment or what somebody says. Somebody is actively taking a position in basically opposition to what was a lot of work from multiple jurisdictions, multiple teams working together to move forward. What is put in there is an indication that this individual wants to address DOT and DOT related to restoration. DOT has been pulled out of restoration, and first, I wouldn't want DOT in restoration. There are a lot of great things that DOT does. They build great roads, they help us with airports, they help us with a number of things. But what they don't do very well is restoration. That's not their thing they do. What we have been working at, and I know that Administrator Fiddler, myself, and Councilman Wiggins were in Tallahassee. We met with DEP. DEP is the perfect entity to be working with restoration. Again, Escambia County, we've been working with it. Not only that, to get this whole solution done, to really change the creek, it's going to take probably upwards of $15, if not more, $1 million to be able to do. To put that in perspective, we're looking to do the expansion of the airport and all the things that we want to do with the parking deck from DOT at just over probably around $20 million. DOT doesn't have money for restoration. They don't have this. DEP does. We went and met with DEP. There is money from NERDA. There is money that doesn't need any match from the local city. What they need is it has to fit within a certain area that has received damage during the oil spill, and Bayou Tahar is certainly one of those bodies, and so the things on Carpenter's Creek are absolutely a way to do it. There's a lot of time, effort, and energy to execute a solution that will move forward. To get that to happen takes a lot of teamwork and working together, and we don't need individuals looking for political gain to go out and structure something else or disturb that effort of working together, especially when we've made all of that open as we've worked forward. Now, if the letter had come forward and said, let's talk to the mayor and let's say what's going on, I would be like, hey, let's do it. We'll go ahead and get done. But that's not what happened. This to me is particularly disturbing because I don't think it potentially jeopardizes the effort that was put in by a lot of people to be able to get us to where we are today and moving forward. Now, we hope DOT is certainly going to get there. I'm not saying I control what DOT does one way or the other, but we would like them to finish their security. And once they do that, we would love them to move out and begin to move forward with getting Wood's recommendation. Wood's recommendation is interesting. Much of the problem that they indicate, and I've seen it because I've seen what happens in hiking. We've got a canyon forming. What should be a tributary draw is now becoming a canyon. The elevation is the challenge, and the problem with elevation is when water moves in elevation, it continues to erode. So one reason why all of the stuff with the outfall, the reason DOT did what they did was to protect what is happening at the bridge. What we'd love to do is find a way to bring all that elevation back up in a gentle meander that will go through there. At that point, there'll be plenty of trees put together, but there's no reason in going in and replanting trees at this particular time, because if you're going to move the whole creek bed up, probably upwards of 10 or so feet, your trees would be buried underneath that. So again, I think the best thing we can do is continue to work as we have been, find the solutions. We got the city, the county, and the state working together, and the correct entity within the state, the one that has the money, the one that has the expertise in restoration. These are things, when you're working together, you can actually find ways to get things done. What I've generally found is that you don't get people to do what you want by publicly scolding them. In fact, progress is often only made by working together. If you look at what happened in the lighting on which has been one of Councilman Meyer's biggest complaints, we have been able to bring in a significant number of lighting at Bayou and 9th. That didn't happen through scolding. It happened through relationship building and working together with an entity and bringing in that lighting. That's the same way you're going to find solutions here. Now, does that mean DOT is perfect in what they do? Absolutely not. Does that mean the city is perfect in what it does? Absolutely not. But if we're going to be working on finding solutions, then we've got to be working together and trying to create relationships that do that. That is why this is particularly troublesome to me, and why I felt it needed to be brought to at least the attention. If you want to focus and you want to be sitting at the person at this podium, then you have to be focused on building relationships and not simply tearing them down. With that said, I certainly think there are council members who deserve recognition. Not because they voted the way I did, and certainly we opposed a position with some funding. Councilman Jones was the swing vote. But Councilman Jones, regardless of however you vote, I don't care about your politics. I care about that you care about the community. And Councilman Jones continues to show that in what he did. He took money. He didn't argue about what his district got or what's going on in his district. He said his money was going to be done to solve a problem. Restrooms in the Palafox core area. The DIB had been wanting to put one up. Thank goodness to Councilman Jones, he put forward an initiative and funding to get something moving. I'm very happy about that. I know we're going to be looking at more restrooms again this next week, and I hope it'll be as supportive as we look forward to funding some additional restrooms in the downtown area. But these are things that I'm talking about all the time. I don't care how you vote. I don't care if you vote the way I think or you vote something else. I just simply care that you care about the community and are willing to put forward things that are even in difference, create better community, and I think that happens. Finally, whether it's been this past issue that I've brought to you or whether it's been the charter review, we can't help but continue to focus on politics. And as I've said before, I think that is what gets in our way. The issue, what we should be focused on, is what makes the best community. For a number of reasons, whether it's talking about recruiting the kind of talent that we have here now at the city and what sits with our professional staff, whether it's looking at where we are with all of our enterprises or other things within the community, we have never had things better than where we are right now. I realize there's a lot of tension between mayor and council, but I don't think there needs to be. I think the issue is how do you remove the politics. As a CRC really looks at different things, I think where there's the potential that they want to put things like our procurement package, things dealing with our budget. These would be tremendous things, hindrances to the city, not for today, but for very much in the future. If you put these into the charter, they don't belong there. There's political differences between the two bodies, but the charter should be focused on those things that make the most sense for moving our community forward. I think when you look at what the success has been of the mayor, I'm leaving here. I'm not going to be here, but I do believe it is critically important what we had in the way this management is happening. I believe it can happen. But if you want to be radical about it, how do you figure out what to do the best potential way? And I've been thinking about this for a long time. And it's sort of within this latest week, what happened got me really thinking about this. If you want to be radical, limit the mayor to one term. You take the politics out, mayor doesn't run again ever. The mayor essentially has 4 years to come in and create the things that need to move the community forward, and you have them focused. You say, well, what could happen? Well, I look at the 4 years of what we've done. We put forward a transitional committee that put forward 55 ideas. Now, again, some of them were inconsistent with what we could do, but we've still done about 50 things. That's tremendous when you've moved a community in 50 different ways. And that didn't even start to address all the projects that we're doing and the things that we're doing creating additional amenities. You can do a number of things in 4 years, but the mayor needs control of the staff and the other things to set the direction and the agenda. And the result that we've seen over the last 12 years tells me in no way that this is a wrong system of government. But there definitely are some challenges, and I would love to find ways to pull politics out of it. I think if you did that in many ways, you could create opportunities where they could function together toward the betterment, and there would not be this rub that the politics brings. If you also ask the issue about what happens in 4 years, I will remind you to look at Escambia County and look back and say, what is the average tenure for a county administrator? You know what it is? 2 years. 2 years is what an Escambia County administrator gets. Significantly less, half of what a mayor gets. So again, if you're looking at different things and you're looking at different systems, I think this is one that could work. And the whole goal of it should be to remove the politics from the system that we have so that we create a community that we want to do. From my standpoint, I could care less from the politics. I don't intend to be involved personally in politics, but I will continue to be a citizen of this community as I have been, and I will continue to love this community and want what's best for this community. But in doing that, I think we've got to find a way to bring some of this infighting out. It doesn't produce good results when it creates a potential where we are recognizing the wrong entity and petitioning the wrong entity for something when work has been done. It just does not create what we want to see as a community and something that moves us forward. I appreciate your time and a chance for me to divert, but there are times where I feel is essential to bring something I believe for this community. I've worked very hard for 4 years to try to take politics out, to bring professional management to the city, and to bring a position that gets the community going forward. These are things that I believe that are essential for all of us who live in this community to make it better. And we may have differences one way or the other. I don't care if we have differences. I just care that we have people that are concerned about our community and want what's best for it and are willing to find ways to work together. And toward that end, I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the items that you have today. Jim.
I guess the first question has to be, what was the thing on the piece of paper you couldn't tell us about?
Jim.
It is a city employee is getting an incredible recognition in about 45 minutes from now, and it is well deserved. It reflects on who we are as a city and who we are as a people, and it is one of the highest awards you can get, and it will be incredibly special when you see it come through. And it to me, it reflects something that an individual did, but it's what goes on every day. And that's what's special to me about working here. Is every day I see men and women that do incredible things because they want to help this community. And again, this is one that happens and should totally be recognized, and I'm very excited about that. But the stuff they're being recognized for is stuff that happens every day here. We just have great people.
But I guess another question on this on the Carpenter's Creek issue.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you correctly when you said FDOT asked the city to put in the diverter that now put in the creek through this? I don't. Again, Jim, what I do know is we designed the Vortex Vault and the stuff that we did with the outflow through them. That was all done through them. You'd have to talk to engineering. I don't know how that was done. So I don't know what was done one way or the other. But I know one of the issues that is coming through is that I think the reason the outflow was put the way it was to protect and harden against Davis Highway.
I mean, you told me yourself the other day, you're like, there's no rain, and there's no water coming over the edge, but there's water coming out the bottom. Well, that water's not coming from our Vortex Vault, because the only way the Vortex Vault gets water is if we get it from rain, from storm water. In other words, we're not a source of water.
But if I heard Craig, you said that the creek was diverted.
Again, you would need to talk to the engineers, but I do know that in those things, I didn't engineer it, but I did tell you, as I told you on the phone that day, I can assure you, if the city messed up, if it was the city that messed up, it wouldn't be us that was up there, it wouldn't be DOT that was up replacing the parking lot. Again, casting blame on somebody doesn't do anything one way or the other. I understand ultimately why DOT is trying to deal with the issues they've got. They've got a bridge that, again, if you listen to Wood says that the collapse of basically the sides is coming from the south and it's going north. The only thing stopping it right now is the work that DOT has done to harden the bridge, Davis Highway. So I don't think any of us want to lose that bridge. That would be significant to lose. I think any of us regret the fact that anything get lost, but at the end of the day, there are systematic issues that took 70 years to get us to this point. I think it's going to take us working together differently to get the solution done.
I guess another follow-up on this memo is like if the creek was diverted. Sherry Myers has been asking about this issue since before Hurricane Sally, when it was put in. There's emails going to the former city administrator. Do you think it would have gotten to this point had the city been more transparent with her before this? Again,
I have not seen anything from Councilwoman Myers on it. If she wants to find something, she's welcome to go find it from DOT and say we had to get the permit. The permit is there. You can pull the permit and the design. I'm not an engineer. Certainly those things are there to avail yourself of the public records of all the things on there. But I think at the end of the day, what DOT is trying to do is to protect their infrastructure, which is the bridge. Yes.
I think that halfway answered my question, because if I'm looking at this particular agenda request, it appears that the councilwoman is asking the city to ask for some type of remedial action, that something incorrect has been done. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think what she's asking us to do is to get forward, and she's asking for trees and a variety of other things. What are they going to do for the remediation?
Right.
They're not going to be doing the environmental remediation, and I wouldn't want DOT to do environmental remediation. I want DEP to be in charge of that. And I think the issue what came forward with Wood, Councilwoman Myers was in the meeting with Wood. Wood was right there. Wood also, in that same memo, she indicates that Wood says the Vortex Vault is to be removed. Wood doesn't say that. You have to listen to them. What Wood is saying is they want to raise the creek bed floor up 10, 12 feet. So yes, the vault will have to be raised. The Vortex Vault is there to protect things coming from the storm water getting into the creek. We don't want that. Same thing we do all over. But at the end of the day, I think what's got to happen is you've got to get a system where you don't have cascades. The first initial design that was put forward when Commissioner Bender was working with this was they said, why don't we put in a series of 8-foot falls as we go through there? Well, one, that totally disrupts. That, from a habitat standpoint, that's not at all. We don't have a system where we're used to cascades where fish and other animals go up and down the creek. We have essentially creeks that meander. That's what Northwest Florida is. We aren't into waterfalls and other things. That's not what we have. That's not what this was originally meant to be. And I think the important part is to listen to Wood. What they're saying is the elevation has been significantly through erosion, through the fact that the creek takes a lot more water than it was supposed to ever take. Again, I guess you could indirectly say in some ways that's the city's and the state's fault. But at the end of the day, the issue is how do we focus on the restoration? And the issue on focusing on restoration is not pulling DOT into the restoration, which is in that letter. That's why I object to it. That work's already been done. It's been done originally by Commissioner Bender and supported by us to remove DOT from it and begin to put DEP, which also has the funding. I don't know where you're going to get the funding from DOT to do all this.
And that's helpful. That corrected my lack of institutional knowledge. I did not understand why the objection to this agency being asked, and now you're telling me that DEP was the agency that was originally planned to do the environmental remediation?
Well, I think DOT certainly has, that was their portion there. Over the last year, through the efforts led by the county and supported by the city, we have pulled DOT out and put DEP in. Now, Councilwoman Myers was in the meeting where this all was discussed. It all was laid forward to her and said, here's what it is. So I would have expected her to continue to keep working with the city and saying, so if she thinks DOT is the entity that needs to be involved and not DEP, if she has the solution and the funding for the restoration of Carpenter's Creek, then she could do it. I'll put mine up against hers any day. DOT has no money for this. DEP is sitting on probably upwards of $200 million in NERDA money for water reclamation projects that improve water quality. So from my standpoint, I'm ready to go with this. If she has an issue and thinks her issue is the way to go, then let's discuss it, because DEP getting involved, I mean, DEP is the way we want. DOT, we need to remove them. They need to do the work that they're doing to secure the parking lot, and after that, they need to move out.
Mayor, I have to ask, I guess about this memo you sent out. You just talked about how relationships are so important, and then this memo is kind of aggressive. Wouldn't a better solution been to say, hey, instead of asking DOT about this, let's ask DEP about this. Let's change your request, instead of like saying Councilman Myers has simply her mission to rant about things, and this.
Again, my issue is she was there. She could have come to me and said, hey, I want to know who the person to come in and run a program is not DOT. It is to run DEP. And she could have come at any point with us and said that. She could have come to us. She could have said in the meeting, rather than bring this statement forward, she could have said, we're going to ask the administration. She didn't do that. She didn't do that for a lot of different reasons. It could have totally solved everything, Jim, and I totally agree that it would have been a much easier way to solve it. That's not the way she went.
She shared with me several emails where she is asking the administration about this project. And
Where are these emails? Because I have no emails from her.
I can send it to you, but
I have no emails from her.
She's asked to the former administrator.
Has she sent any emails to me? Have any of them been addressed to me? Have any of them been addressed to me?
Not aware of that.
No, the answer is no. She has not addressed a single issue to me, not addressed a single email to me. I believe, who is the one that is in charge of the administration? By the charter. I mean, she is big about the charter. Who is the person that's in charge of the administration? Councilwoman Myers is big about following the charter. Who did she send any emails to? Send any of them to me? No, she didn't. She potentially and deliberately tried to bypass and deal with it because she didn't want to come talk to me about it. So, I mean, those are questions you're going to have to ask her. That's not the way it goes. That's not the way institutions should be run and working together. And it's not me that's trying to do this. When I had Wood come here and deliver the whole thing, did I not invite Councilwoman Myers? Did she have an invitation to come? Did I give her the courtesy and the invitation to be involved at the ground level of what the solution was? Jim, did I? Yes, I did. So from my standpoint, I will always openly invite. She is not openly inviting to people. And this creates friction and things that are not needed for us to move the community forward if we're going to have real solutions.
Have you communicated with her Thursday?
I have not communicated from her since Thursday because her tone continues to be an exclusion of me or anything we've done or on that. I am more than happy. I've invited her. If she wants to come talk about it, I'll do it. I have told the whole council, if you see mine, I've already called Wood and we've already invited Wood to come forward and speak to the council and try to address the whole council on the solution. Yes.
Mayor, I want to shift gears here for a moment. Did the council vote Thursday night on the port lease surprise you?
I mean, it surprised me in the sense that I think in 3 years, I'm just going to predict, we're going to be right back where we were with no solution we will have less money and we will have no screening to protect. So, I mean, do I think we chose what was right for the citizens and right for the community? Not at all. Will we be right here back in 3 years? Yeah, we'll be right here because this is the challenge. Everybody talks about what's the difference between an executive running it and the council. Council, you need to be bold in some things that you take forward. And the issue is when you have a lease like this that just rotates every single day and it opens one more, you're not going to extend it, but you're not going to want to stop it. Nothing is coming right now that is stopping it. So this thing will ever run, just like water dripping and beating. It will just keep going and it will run until you force there to be a decision. The lease, I can understand what they felt one way or another. The lease forced a decision. Even if the sense, I get the point that some of the people didn't like the rollover, it still forced you in year 2, it forced you to come to a decision and make a decision at that point, and the city absolutely could have made a decision in 2 years and decided what they wanted to do. So it forces a decision, whereas today it is just a rolling average, and we will be here in 3 more years, John, and we will have no more money than we have right now. We'll have lost half the money we could have retained, and we will have no screening that we will have because they won't invest any more in it. And I understand why they're saying they won't invest. For 3 years, I've been trying to find a way to make something work better through Martin Marietta, because I get that it's not exactly what we want to do. But at this particular point, there are 2 things that hit me why Martin Marietta is necessary. 1, we're not using that space and we could use the income at the port. 2, that part of being aggregate is vitally important to issues with pricing and dealing with concrete. If you don't have the aggregate to put in your concrete, your construction prices are just going to go through the roof. Ask any person here that's trying to develop something what's going on and what's the most significant cost increase that they've seen. It's been concrete. Concrete is absolutely just going sky high. And if we don't have some more efficient use, and again, water is one of the easiest ways to carry aggregate, is it the best thing that we want in what terms of what we're trying to create downtown? No, I get some of the objections. I agree, which is why one of the reasons I came to him, I said, we want to find a way that we can screen what you're doing so it doesn't have as much of a visual impact on what we like to do in downtown. They said we will only do that if we have a longer lease. So this is 3 years of just going back and forth trying to figure out how we get something. I mean, council made the decision. I understand, but my only thing is, I bet we're right back here in 3 years and we haven't made any progress. So I mean, again, whether or not it was one way, people can say they don't like Martin Marietta. I get it. I mean, they aren't what we totally want to do, but we have no viable option for the next 3 years. So why don't we get more money and why don't we get screening? And those were 2 things that I thought were worth us getting in the trade-off. But I still think they'll be here in 3 years.
Councilman Moore raised a point in his questioning of all of that. And he said that it appears to him that the community is still seeking an identity for the port, and that he thought that this 3-year lease would hinder the city's ability to develop the north part of the port, as Moffitt Nichols strongly recommended and the community agreed to. Do you feel the same way?
I think some of the things that Council Member Moore is vocalizing are true. I think what's going on with Martin Marietta is not ideal for what we want to see going forward. But I think that's why you do the screening. I think that's ultimately, if you do the screening and you don't see it, then it has less of an impact on the redevelopment. 2, I don't think we're going to redevelop that in the next 3 years. I think it is doubtful in the next 9 years. We're still trying to finish out Maritime Park. There's a lot of vacant property downtown here. And by the way, I meant to, this reminds me, after you finish this, I'm going to remind something else we're doing this week. But there's a lot of properties where we just don't, there's not enough development at this particular time to fill those things. And I don't think we're going to fill the area north of the port today.
So Martin Marietta, the representative, said, and Director Merritt told council that part of this lease proposal would include these infrastructure additions. You mentioned a screen. They mentioned a road. Is the screen part of these infrastructure? What kind of screen?
They're looking for ways they can screen it. I'm not saying it's a physical screen. I'm looking for ways that we can divert and it's not as visible what they're doing. So when I say screening, I do not mean a physical screen. I mean some way to make it less visible. And however they end up doing that, the port works with them to figure out how to do that. That's the whole goal, was to figure out how do we make Martin Marietta's operations less visible. And so that was what we were trying to do in this. We've been talking to them for some time. How do we make your things less visible? Do we create an opportunity where they can become inside operations or something? I mean, how do we do that? And their response to us is, well, we can look at a lot of different options if we had a longer lease to put it in there. So again, and I think the bigger issue is going to be in 3 years we'll be right back where we were. And while it's easy to say, well, it was 3 with 2 3-year options, so it's a 9-year lease. No, we had the ability to stop it. It was not, those renewals were not unilateral, they were bilateral. So the city council had to agree. Now, you cause 2 separate votes in those renewals, but at least the council at that point gets a chance to really say no or yes. Now, granted, it is every 3 years, but unless the council is going to come back next week and say, this is what we want to do, I just don't see us being there anymore in 3 years.
What's the next steps here?
The
you
next-
gonna redo the proposal?
I mean, next step is we're gonna let it rock along as council has indicated, and we're gonna let it go. And if the next mayor wants to do something, they'll figure it out. I think from our standpoint, the port has never been more successful. And I don't know, y'all aren't writing any stories that the port is inconsistent with downtown. I mean, downtown is going incredibly well. The port's going incredibly well. We have succeeded at our objective, which is to make the port successful and an asset, not a detractor from downtown. I think we've done that. I mean, but again, the next mayor will have the opportunity to figure out what they want to do, and if they want to do it. I just think when you have that kind of point, I don't want to be Savannah. I don't want to be Mobile. I don't want to be any of those communities' ports. But I think there is a way that the port can be successful and be an addition to downtown and be an attraction to downtown without being a detractor. I believe we can, and we've done that. We've done that for 3 years. I would have thought that would have created some credibility with the council. But I mean, I get it. If I understand, if the council doesn't think that's there, then they'll be able to deal with it, later on. I think those are the challenges. But this is the way I look at it: is downtown's never been more successful. The port's never been more successful, and they're doing it together. I think we've achieved something great. I don't think that's the way the rest of the people have seen it. But is that our fault? Maybe it's our fault for not communicating, but it's not our fault for not achieving it. We've managed to achieve that.
Mayor, any thoughts on the payment slip vote on Thursday for the funding?
Two things. Jim, let me come to your question real quick. Let me also say something else that you talked about before when you talked about areas that are undeveloped. The city is putting forward this week to go to the PEDC. I see Adrian in the back. We're going to be going forward to ask the PEDC for the ability to use part of the tech port for practice fields. We are running out of practice fields. We have simply run out of space. Now, we will not be holding games or any other events. There's not anything else coming in there, but we are going to be looking at using those fields for some practice because we have a lot of people coming to us saying we need practice area to play. Adrian has assessed the west end of the tech park and believes that those areas can be done. Now, we actually may have to put some kind of a netting screen up along the street that was at the W.D. Childers Plaza because we don't want balls kicked into that area, and we may have to do something. But other than that, we're not as worried about some of the other things.
You're talking soccer practice, or baseball?
Soccer is what's there. Could be lacrosse, could be anything. I mean, but soccer is the one that's pushing us at this particular time. It's exploding.
The Southeastern Conference Women's Championship?
It's not. It's tied to the fact that our youth sports are growing at an explosive rate and they need more fields. That's what it is. That's what it's tied to. And soccer has seen it. I don't know what it is that is related to it, but I mean, it was something we always felt like the sport could be stronger than what it was. And again, we think participating in sports is incredibly important to youth in our area. It used to be we were an incredible baseball town. I mean, you don't go to a park and not see a baseball diamond in the park. And kids used to come out and they used to play baseball. They're not doing that now. But it's not to say baseball's bad. Baseball has its place. Baseball's there. But what we're seeing is an explosion in people who want to play soccer and some of these other sports. We have nothing for lacrosse at this point, and people are coming to us saying we'd love to do something. So we are simply looking at going to the PEDC and asking for some. Now again, we ultimately know that that it is not going to be a case of if the PDC comes to a solution and they have something tomorrow, we would fully expect like a 90-day you got to get out of here kind of notice, and we would do that. We expect also that we would have to take over the cost of mowing and dealing with that. But at the end of the day, what we see is a fallow asset that is not utilized in any way, and what we believe is it could be utilized. You could put two needs together. So when you were talking about that, I wanted to do that. I wanted to at least bring that forward. And Jim, remind me what your question was.
About the boats.
Oh, yeah, yes. My issue had nothing to do as much with the boat slips as far as the funding. Because from the boat slip standpoint, we just put in 48 slips right there at Maritime Park. We worked. I mean, I'm very proud of our staff and what we did. We totally got that initiative done. That was one that we did. We believed there needed to be. We heard people say public marina. We wanted to put the public marina in there. My only issue is we're going to be redoing the whole seawall in there. It's going to take 2 years. It's not scheduled out for 2 years. In 2 years, we'll get that done. We'll do it all. So we can't build anything in there for another 2 years. We're going to be seeing tremendous issues come to us for funding this next meeting. We talked about restrooms. We're going to have an opportunity to put our money where our mouth is on restrooms and put some restrooms in at the Veterans Park and deal with something in a much more way of a permanent restroom, and we'll talk about that as we go into the next meeting. We also will have the ability to look at what's going to happen with housing, and I think the commitment that they're going to have from the city is we're going to need some kind of commitment to assist with both the workforce and the things at workforce and attainable housing that will be happening with the redevelopment of the old Baptist complex. I would have loved to have had that happen last time we were bringing forward our housing initiative, but they needed a 2-week stay, and so we'll be doing that next Monday. And I think funding is going to be critical in that. My simple think was that $120,000 I think is going to be important for the things that we need to see already today. But I have no problem if what people want to do is in the future make that happen. I mean, hopefully we'll have another LOST cycle and there'll be that opportunity. So again, it's more of a timing issue, Jim. It's not going to happen into the future. My understanding is what the money that was proposed is a fraction of what I realize it gets in a kayak launch, and that's what a lot of things we want. I understand all that. I just think there was a better timing and a way to do that, because I think what's going to come forward next week with housing is perhaps the most critical issue that is facing us and challenge that's facing us as a city is going to be housing.
Any chance you'll use your line item veto on it?
You know, Jim, I totally could have, but it's not that critical. The critical part to me is the voting on where we end up on this. I'm not opposed to additional boat slips. I'm not opposed to that. So from my standpoint, I would rather see in working a relationship with the council that we find a way to fund what is critically important for us. Could I have done it? Absolutely, I could have. And I that was one of the things that came up to me. But I don't think it creates what we want to do, and that's not my goal in doing that. What I would rather have is a council that is supportive of where we want to go with housing initiatives and the things that we want to fund this next time. Yes, Jim?
Mayor, if you got time for one more.
I do.
On the subject of kayaks, has the Bars Park friction, my words, has that been resolved?
In
terms
no.
of getting this
No.
the state designation?
No.
Ways?
No, I mean, what happens at Bars Park is going to have to be developed and worked through. It's going to take a process. What we have been wanting to do is to figure out what was going to happen and then really engage with the neighborhood and figure out what they want to do at Bars Park. That's what we've been. Now, it's one of the things that got picked up in the Wood study. It was there and what Wood had indicated. I think when you look at use, it is challenging because we have no other point. And I understand some of the challenges in the neighborhood, what deals with the Bars Park. But when I look practically at the ability for us to create access close to the creek, we don't have anywhere at this particular time. So I understand what's there, but we haven't even started to figure out what we're going to develop it as. I think there's an idea that it could serve as a functioning point, but as far as what the design and the ultimate build out looks like, no, we hadn't had those discussions, and we need to have those discussions with the neighborhood, and we just haven't at this particular time. I don't think with all the other things we've got going on that we're going to solve Bars Park in the next 6 months. So I think Bars Park is going to go into the next administration and the next things that are there. But I think there's an idea that we've got to figure out how to use it. But I think how that looks and what ends up is at this point, I mean, blank slate.
The Woods proposal included some significant infrastructure, and I'm being told that this is what really got the neighborhood agitated about what might happen up there.
Well, again, Wood's proposal is not our proposal. I think we'd have to look and see what's going on there. I mean, we'd have to go through the process. But Wood, we simply told Wood that the city had that. It was a place where we could connect to it and to think about those things going forward. That was Wood's ask and responsibility. I think that those design teams, they realize they put together thoughts and ideas of what you can do. Do they think that every one of them is going to happen? It's not going to necessarily happen the way they would. I've talked to a good friend of mine who's right there, who has a lot of problems with it, and I've told them, I said, is that the city? Can you definitively? No, it's not the city. I said, then why are you coming to me? It's not how we're going to do it. But I think that's a way to look at it. I mean, again, I think Wood has a lot of different proposals on there. We need to look at all of them. The ones that I think are most critical are the ones that help address how we deal with the environmental problems that have created by the creek, the way we've treated it. The most interesting thing they did is the very beginning of the session they did in here when we were all in here discussing it, they took aerials of where it was, and they showed the creek from pre-1940 to today. And again, there's a lot of things that we've done as a community, and we've done some things, and then we've neglected stuff. There's no doubt that Carpenter's Creek has been the bearer of a lot of things we've neglected, and we've thrown a lot of stormwater into it that more than it could carry. That has created all of the issues that we have with the what we've seen, the draws in the banks, the erosion of the bank. But the only way we're going to solve that is if we all work together to create the solutions. And that really is all of us figuring out how we do it, putting aside some of our differences and whatever else, and how do we work together and create that. And I think that's the more critical part for me is I care less about the actual decisions, John. What I want to get to is how do we make those things? How do we do that? And I think whenever we enter politics in there, we create conflict, and we end up with a result that is far less satisfactory and really what we should want. I want no politics. I want solutions. I want that creek to be better. I want it to be done because it's done for the right reasons and the way it's done. And again, I understand everything wants to be is transparent out in the open. None of this we've ever come forward and said, but some of it you have to work over time. You have to work through those things. And I'm sorry that it wasn't. Maybe if we could have created a better solution, explained to you what was happening and why we were letting the county sort of handle the lead through that and the work that had been done over the last 6 months, absolutely. But I can tell you one person who knew everything in there, what we had been doing and how we had been discussing. That was Councilwoman Myers. She was in the discussions. I invited her always to be a part of the discussions. I don't feel like it's been reciprocated over and over again, and we see that over and over again. It's not reciprocated. and it just doesn't create the solutions you want. All right, thank you very much.